They are ready. Education Ministry survey shows majority of primary schools prepared for PEP. Good evening and welcome to Primetime News on air and online at onespotmedia.com. I'm Archibald Gordon.
And I'm Doreen Samuels. Also this evening, it's illegal. Calabar ordered to reinstate students barred from promotion to grade 11.
Dengue fever? Health Ministry investigates claims 2 men are being treated for the mosquito-borne disease.
Expect delays. JUDC says the traffic changes in Kingston to impact 34 routes.
Water woes. St. Thomas residents protest for the precious commodity.
And in business news, reviving dairy. Plans in motion to bring the wheeling industry back to life.
There's also sports, post commentary and weather in the primetime package. But before the break, the feedback question.
This evening we're asking, what is your view on Calabar's decision not to promote students to grade 11 because their grades fall below 60%?
Share comments online, facebook.com/Television Jamaica and tweet at Television Jam.
Please stay with us. Primetime News returns after this break.
Primetime News headlines.
Welcome back to Primetime News.
Special welcome to folks on onespotmedia.com.
Up first this evening, there have been concerns about the readiness of primary schools to prepare students for the Primary Exit Profile PEP exams, but the Education Minister, Will Reid, says a recent survey shows the majority are ready.
The proclamation was made despite some schools pointing out that they are yet to receive the PEP curriculum.
Mr. Reid made the observation at a press briefing at which he also outlined the overall readiness of his ministry for the new school term which begins on Monday.
TVJ's Herman Green was at the briefing and now reports.
Concerns have been raised in the past few weeks about PEP. The JTA president, Dr. Garth Anderson, recently saying schools are not equipped to prepare students for the exams. But the Education Minister, Will Reid, is disagreeing. On Thursday at a press briefing ahead of the reopening of schools next week, Mr. Reid said a PEP survey measuring teachers' readiness shows more than 80% of the primary schools are ready for the new exam. For those that are not ready,
all the schools need to indicate if they have any particular challenge. Let us know. We're already out there in the field with math coaches and literacy coaches and coaches for science and so on. And we have them on standby, ready to be deployed to hold the hands of the teachers. And importantly, your master teacher, the Minister of Education himself, will be leading from the front. I'll be visiting schools very regularly, be teaching these PEP classes to make sure that everybody is comfortable.
He said hard copies of the curriculum will be distributed starting Monday. He points out that the preparation for PEP started over 2 years ago.
The pilot started 2014, 2015, and there was a forecast for PEP to be implemented in 2017. When I took over as minister, I had to review the work that was being done. And so, as you note, that there's a year delay just to make sure that we were doing all the requisite consultation, fine-tuning, and preparation for its implementation this year.
In fact, he says the 2016 and 2017 cohort of GSAT students did exams using the PEP curriculum. Turning to education fees and book purchases, Mr. Reid reiterated that auxiliary fees should not be compulsory and no student should be denied admission for non-payment. Also, clarification for literature books and students' school insurance costs.
Literature books for those who are not on pass? Well, at the moment, they would have to purchase those literature books. We are hoping to add, next year we would extend to everybody because we had to phase it in because the key cohort was, of course, the PASS. We had to cover the PASS students in the first instance. But next year, we hope to complete the allocation to make sure that, and 50% of our children are already on PASS anyway, so we'll do the other 50% next year.
As for adjustments to the school feeding program, where Nutrition Products Limited cut buns and bolas from their menu, Mr. Reid says the ministry has added and will now be paying more than 1,000 cooks at government schools to ensure that cooked meals are prepared for students daily. Herman Green, TVJ News.
In the meantime, the Education Ministry says the action of Calabar High in St. Andrew to bar students from going to fifth form if their grade average falls below 60% is illegal. Mr. Reid was speaking on TVJ's Smile Jamaica earlier today. More from TVJ's O'Shane Masters.
Barred from Calabar,
The headline of the Gleaner newspaper on Thursday, documenting the school's action to indicate it will prevent fourth form students from being promoted to grade 11 next week if their overall average was below 60%. It was outlined in a letter to parents signed by the principal, Albert Corcho. The decision has not gone down well with some parents. And the Education Minister, Will Reid, quizzed about it on TVJ's Smile Jamaica on Thursday, said he asked the school for a report, citing that the action is not legal.
That's one reason we are going to say to schools, first of all, you have a right to establish rules, but the rules have to conform with the Education Act and other legal requirements such as the Constitution, etc., which requires proper procedures which are consistent with the procedures of natural justice. Okay. So, even in this case, we have asked the school to give us a full report whether they had followed those procedures and to say to parents, if they so desire, they can appeal to the Minister for redress.
He adds that he understands what the school is trying to do, but said it is going about it the wrong way. Mr. Reid said that this kind of action can have a negative impact on the students' future.
I have, reviewed the article, and the question is going to come back. So where are those students to go? Right. So when we have that process where you say they're bad, they can't come back, I would like to ask, where are those students to go? Are they now to go back into the communities and then they get themselves assimilated into very negative, nefarious type of activities?
Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, the principal of Calabar High School, Albert Corcho, has defended the school's position. Speaking on RGR's Beyond the Headlines with Dion Jackson Miller just moments ago, Mr. Corcho said the decision was made after numerous meetings with parents.
At a school, we have taken all the necessary measures. We have not put the few boys who have asked not to come back. What we have done, we know them by name and number. We have worked with them, and at the end of the thing, we are saying that your continuation at Calabar is not helping. And so we are saying that it is better in order for you to succeed, in order for you to do well. You cannot. It don't make sense to continue at Calabar.
The Education Minister said the students will have to be reinstated.
The opposition People's National Party has charged the government to address some of these issues ahead of the new school year. The party held a press conference at party headquarters in St Andrew today. TVJ's Anthony Lugg has that story.
The government may be ready for the new school year, but not so fast as the opposition People's National Party. At a press conference on Thursday, the opposition outlined that just days before school reopens, there are several unsettled issues within the education system. Opposition spokesman on education Ronald Thwaites pointed to the situation at Calabar High School.
We compound those deficiencies by putting our children on a treadmill where they are promoted every year according to their age, not according to their performance. I understand the difficulties attached, but they are to be supported. There is no point in moving children from grade 6 into a high school in grade 7 with all of the expense and the aspiration connected with that when they cannot read and write properly.
That aside, discussions about whether teachers are ready for the rollout of the Primary Exam Profile Exam PEP. Chairman of the PNP Commission for Education and Training, Elaine Foster Allen, argues that a different approach is needed.
I don't think teachers are unable to comprehend what is required of them, but I think it would be better for them to have more on the ground, grassroots, in the classroom, professional development activities so that they can actually be coached into what needs to be done in the classroom. Because if teachers don't get it right, and if teachers don't feel confident about what they have to do, then clearly they're going to stagger.
And with the Education Ministry removing bullas, buns, as well as other sugary foods from the list of items to be provided by Nutrition Products Limited to schools, Mr. Thwaites had this question.
What are the substitutes derived from local produce for the nearly 300,000 students who experience hunger at school starting next Monday morning?
Anthony Lugg, TVJ News.
And after weeks of not knowing their fate, administrators of the National Inter-School Brigade, NIB, are this evening hearing from the Education Minister. The NIB, which provides rehabilitation for delinquent students, was ordered to leave its location because of outstanding rent. Mr. Reid says while the Education Ministry values the program, NIB will have to give up that location as the ministry is unable to sustain the cost.
Expensive operation. We have been supporting previously, but we're asking for a review and a possible relocation. The current rental cost is about $300,000 monthly. We think that's too high. So we want to work with them to find an alternate venue that we think is more suitable and affordable.
He says the review should be completed within the next month, after which a new location should be identified. The eviction notice at the Studio One Boulevard location takes effect on August 31. That means NIB will be out of operation for that review period. But Mr. Reid says there are other programs that will accommodate students if the need arises.
It's a short time, I believe, for the operation to be inactive. So we don't anticipate as the school year begins that you should have any need for that service, because all our children now are actually accommodated in an institution, education institution. So I believe Dr. Matei and the team will work, ASP Minter, to have the matter resolved as quickly as possible.
A top story this evening, Education Ministry says more than 80% of primary schools are ready to administer the PEP curriculum. And still ahead, water woes. St. Thomas residents protest for the precious commodity. And in business news, reviving dairy, plans in motion to bring the reeling industry back to life. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Continuing the news. Days before the start of the new school year, an appeal for adults to do more to protect the nation's children, especially in light of recent violent incidents involving children, some of which have been fatal. The Director of Safety and Security in Schools made the appeal at a book launch in St. Catherine today. TVJ's Krista Campbell reports.
The Education Ministry says it's expecting a more challenging new school year, and here's why. Statistics which Assistant Superintendent of Police, ASP Coleridge Minto, says points to a need for greater security for children during school breaks. The Director of Safety and Security in Schools at the Education Ministry says between January 1 and August 28 this year, there have been 33 reports of children being murdered. Over the summer break,
11 students or 11 children were murdered. 5 in July and 6 in August. August actually represents the highest record where we have children being murdered. All the previous months were lower than 6.
152 cases of child rape reported between January 1 and August 28 this year. 33 of those incidents reportedly happened during the summer break.
Come September 3rd, when hundreds of thousands of children will be going out to school, and some of you parents will accompany them, 11 will be missing from 11 seats. 33 of them would have had some brokenness and will need special care and counseling.
ASP Minter says the Education Ministry is spending more to improve security and safety for students. $370 million, up from $200 million last year, has been allocated for the Rural Safe School Bus program. 12 parishes will now benefit, up from 8. Also, a $3 million investment from the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, to improve surveillance and discipline at schools.
We have secured 130 handheld metal detectors in 2017 and 500 for 2018. We secured 5 walk-through scanners in 2017 and 30 for 2018. Funding has also been provided under this project for perimeter fencing, cameras to schools, capacity building, training sessions for deans of discipline and other cohorts of groups in the school.
Meanwhile, an appeal for parents to take a greater responsibility for the safety and security of their children.
Insist on the time that your children come home after school. Do not allow them to loiter at bus parks and in malls and plazas after school.
He was speaking at the launch of journalist Garfield Angus's book entitled Triumphs, Inspirational Stories. Krista Campbell, TVJ News.
In the wake of traffic changes to be implemented in sections of the corporate area on Monday, the Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC, is already warning passengers to expect delays. The company says 34 bus routes with more than 112 buses will be impacted. More in this report.
It's not guaranteed to be a smooth start come next week, especially for commuters who use the Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC bus service. The National Works Agency, NWA, has announced extensive changes to the traffic flow in the corporate area effective Sunday, September 2, in an effort to prevent major bottlenecks when schools resume on Monday. But the changes to be implemented could cause some headache for commuters who use a state-owned bus company. JUTC Corporate Communications Manager Cecil Toms said more than 112 of the state-owned company's buses will be affected by the changes. He says most of the routes originate in Portmore.
Of course, you will appreciate that significant road improvement work is being done across the KMA, and this is already having an impact on our operations in terms of our schedules and causing delays, and I imagine some amount of distress from the commuters. We are projecting that some 34 routes will be impacted, representing 112 buses across our operations, with Portmore being the most affected.
And this is why Mr. Toms is urging commuters to prepare for delays.
Our commuters should brace for some amount of delay, and we're appealing to them to just exercise some patience as we go through this period. We know that there will be delays because of the heightened level of infrastructure work that's taking place, and we're just appealing to them to just understand what is happening, and we know that when the roadworks are completed, they will be more than happy to drive on them.
In the meantime, the NWA said the exclusive bus lane along Washington Boulevard will also be removed as of September 2. The changes have become necessary as the agency is overseeing road works along 3 major thoroughfares in the corporate area.
So all 3 lanes along the boulevard, or all 6 lanes along the boulevard, 3 in either direction, will be available to the motoring public. So there will no longer be an exclusive bus lane along the Washington Boulevard or along Dunrobin Avenue.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
$42 million and counting, the amount of losses suffered by Flow since road construction activities intensified in the corporate area. Flow took members of the media on a tour earlier today. Details from TVJ's Andrea Chisholm.
So by now we all know that a number of road construction projects have been ongoing in the corporate area, creating misery and frustration for almost everyone, short-term pain for a long-term gain. But the pain is costing telecommunications company Flow millions.
Excluding the most recent damages, we're upwards of 42 million in damages.
That damage is to their underground ducts, the things that look like pipes which house fiber optic and copper cables. They are used to transmit data over long distances. So when the fiber optic and copper cables are damaged, people and businesses suffer. How? Well, there's no internet. Landlines become useless because there's no connectivity, and businesses with multiple locations, for example a bank, are not able to share information through their local area network.
With the prior damage that we had, what we had to do was temporarily put in an aerial route to restore a number of our business customers. And as you can see, this is an industrial belt. So you're talking about businesses that are taking orders for exports, they are importing goods that they need to use in the local economy. So if their communication is significantly disrupted, it means a serious impact to their revenues and to their reputation.
After getting the all clear, technical teams sometimes spend hours carrying out repairs.
The engagement is there to ensure that going forward we'll limit the amount of damage that we're having to our telecom infrastructure, and more importantly, disruption to business life.
Flo is therefore asking customers for patience and understanding as they work with the National Works Agency through this period. Flo says they fully support the road construction activities and they are working to minimize disruption to customers. Andrea Chisholm, TVJ News.
Residents in several communities in St. Thomas staged a protest on Wednesday, calling on the National Water Commission, NWC, to provide them with a commodity. TVJ's Shamela Pullen reports.
Frustration boiling over in St. Thomas. Residents, tired of complaining that the parish's water resources are being unfairly channeled off to Kingston, leaving them with little or none, staged a protest on Wednesday.
Over 30 years we don't have any water. We are living by rainwater. Now no rain, it's falling. We have to buy water, it's very difficult.
If other district over the Jamaica have the water for 3 days, it's pandemonium. And can you imagine over 10 years now me can't get water in my yard?
These residents hail from communities as diverse as Cedar Valley, Trinityville, Port Morant, Bath and Seaforth, calling on the National Water Commission, NWC, to resolve before schools reopen on Monday.
So many children has to go to high school. Where would they get water to bathe and have proper hygiene?
Me get up and me have to go bathe in a bucket. Come on, man. This has been happening for years. Me left here, come back, is the same thing.
They were joined in the protest by Member of Parliament for St. Thomas Western, James Robertson. He told our correspondent he has been meeting with the NWC for years, asking them to bring a reliable water supply to the parish.
The National Water Commission needs to perform. Don't tell me for 20 years about wells. Don't tell me for 20 years about pumps. Don't tell me for 20 years about tanks. Don't tell me for 20 years about 5 bags of cement. There are some areas where it's just a catchment to be fixed. 5 bags of cement.
Mr. Robertson says if the situation is not addressed, then action should be taken against the NWC.
I am saying to the National Water Commission, come to the table, or we are going to, from St. Thomas, lead a call for the change of the leadership of the National Water Commission. I have had meetings under PNP, I have had meetings under JLP. I am not about no politics this morning.
Shamela Pullen, TVJ News.
The Health Ministry is investigating reports that cases of dengue fever have emerged in Trelawney. It's reported that 2 men from South Trelawney are being treated after displaying symptoms of the mosquito-borne virus. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Jacqueline Bissesa Mackenzie says it's yet to receive any reports of confirmed cases of dengue.
The ministry has been alerted that there have been reports of increased cases in Trelawney, and we are presently investigating, and we will inform you as soon as we have further information.
She says she is expecting a speedy response. Dengue fever is a mosquito-borne tropical disease. There's no specific treatment for dengue, but access to proper medical care reduces mortality rates. Symptoms of dengue typically begin 3 to 14 days after infection. This may include a high fever, headache, vomiting, muscle and joint pains, and a skin rash. Symptoms usually last 2 to 7 days.
A woman was killed in Manchester yesterday, just days after the police found a female body in a car. The killing has left the community of New Forest in shock as residents ponder what could lead anyone to murder an old woman. TVJ's Dashan Hendricks reports.
Grief gripping Manchester again. Onlookers outside this house in New Forest and the crime scene tape signal a heinous act has been committed. The body of 60-year-old farmer Winifred Elliott was found Thursday morning. We were told the body had stab wounds. The killing has left this South Manchester community in shock.
When I get the call this morning, I run, go up the road like me mad up the road. Run, I call one of my cousins, say, Datlin, you know, say they kill me sister. Datlin, I say, who? Me say, Peggy Elliott, then kill him.
It's believed Elliott was killed on Wednesday.
Me and she talked 1:30 to 2 o'clock yesterday. My son did a go market, asked him to take something for her. When my son come up here and been blowing now, Peggy. That time Peggy dead and nobody don't know around there.
She's remembered as a quiet person, one loved by everyone in the community.
The way how we live, we call one another sister. She's a nice lady, kind, friendly. In every way she go, everybody love her.
Winifred Elliott is the second woman to be killed in Manchester this week. A motive and a suspect are yet to be identified. On Monday, the police found a female body with the throat slashed in an igloo on the back seat of a car. That body is yet to be identified, but the police have named Linton Stevenson, a deacon at a Manchester church, as a person of interest in that case. Dashan Hendricks, TVJ News.
The Business Day and news from overseas after the break.